Hi, if you're joining us, we plan to start in about 3 minutes. Hi, everyone is popping in. If you're joining us, we're going to get started in just a minute. Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Kelly Chiazzo with Sustainable Wellesley, and tonight I'm going to talk to you a little bit about using plant-based pantry staples. I know that it is a little bit of a strange time right now, and I really just wanted to say first that we really miss you. We miss being in the Wakeland room with like 70 people and putting out a giant buffet and having everybody join us. It was a really beautiful series that we had last spring, the spring before that. I think this would have been our 4th year of doing it in the library and having all of these fellow environmentalists join us. And I'm glad that a lot of people can either join us now or watch this live video presentation later. I hope that some of you were able to watch the documentary Forks Over Knives. It's a great documentary. I first saw it in 2013 and really fell in love with the film. And I think it's a great film for right now because it's something that you can do at home from the comfort of your own home and actually using plants to get the most out of the things in your pantry so that you can reduce your trips to the grocery store is something that's kind of on our minds right now anyway. So I'd like to go back, let's see, and just say what we're going to be doing tonight. Just a quick introduction, and then I'm going to share some meal planning strategies for using a lot of plant-based pantry staples, some recipe ideas, And then I'm going to share some online resources. I'm also going to have time at the end to take questions, and if you emailed your questions into Sustainable Wellesley ahead of time, then you get slides. So thank you for emailing in questions. So yes, I miss you guys. Yeah. I also wanted to quickly say that the reusable gift wrap fabric that was donated by a lot of people and sewn into furoshiki gift wrapping cloths for our Sustainable Wellesley reusable gift wrap events that we held at Wellesley Marketplace. There were a lot of smaller fabric scraps that were too small to be made into gift wrap that have been donated to the sewing group here in Wellesley that is sewing face masks for essential workers and donating them to groups of people who need them. And we have given that group, I think, 4 large boxes of fabric remnants and fabric donations from the fabric that we had left over from the reusable gift wrap project, because that project had been running for 3 years and I'd accumulated quite a bit of fabric actually. And there are some Sustainable Wellesley volunteers who sewed gift wrap who are now sewing masks. So we just wanted to thank everybody who donated fabric, and if you have gift wrap from one of our Sustainable Wellesley reusable gift wrap events, there may be an essential worker out there in Massachusetts who has a mask that matches. That's pretty cool. So thanks to everybody who watched the film. And if you did not watch the film, that is no problem. You can still stay and learn how to, some meal planning strategies. You won't be missing anything if you haven't seen the film that you can't get by watching the film after this presentation. It's available on Netflix, it's on Amazon Video. It's a really fun, engaging, and really interesting film. I thought it was really well done. I hope you'll watch it if you haven't. Briefly, since it is Earth Day, I just wanted to share a little bit about why we're talking about plant-based foods on Earth Day. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I think we need something that is uplifting, so I want to focus on the positive aspects of eating plants, which is why Forks Over Knives is such a great film, because it talks about all the health impacts, and it's really just more of an uplifting kind of message. But when you eat plants, you're saving a lot of energy that would be used if you instead had those plants raised for food for livestock and then fed to the livestock and then eat the livestock. So animal agriculture is responsible for a lot of deforestation. We talk a lot as environmentalists about the palm oil being responsible for rainforest destruction, and it's certainly a big problem with rainforests being burned down for palm oil, but so is cattle. 91% of Amazon destruction is actually related to animal agriculture, where they're making pasture lands. And a lot of water is used to raise the number of plants needed to create food for livestock. So you can reduce your water footprint by eating more plant-based meals, and pretty significantly too. Greenhouse gas emissions, cows are responsible for a lot of methane, and methane is a particularly dangerous greenhouse gas for our atmosphere. So not to be all doom and gloom, but this kind of shows the power that we have when we switch out a meal, even one meal a week, one meal a day, to just shift it to be a little bit more plants. Or even if you're taking the meat and you're making it a smaller part of that meal and you're eating like a beef stew instead of like a pot roast, those kinds of things can make a really big difference. And now I'd like to talk a little bit more about some great ways to do that. So cooking beans from dried is something that, if you have not done, is really a lot more simple than you might think. All it takes is a little bit of foresight and patience. So beans are an awesome pantry staple to have right now because they last for months. I mean, people say, it's great if you can use your dried beans within 6 months. Okay, like a year. And you just might need to soak them or cook them a little bit longer if it's been a while. So the great thing about beans too is if you buy dried beans. They take up a lot less room than beans that are already cooked and in cans in your pantry. So you can see here I've got some soaked cranberry beans before and after, and it gains about 30% in volume. So if you're trying to maximize the amount of space that you have in your pantry or in your grocery cart because you're trying to go less often, buying dried beans instead of canned beans is a fantastic way to do that. There's also a lot of energy that goes into creating the can. I read once that it's about 300 calories worth of energy, if you were to convert it into an equivalent, that you just use just to produce the can if you're buying canned beans. So that's not to say that you shouldn't have some in your pantry. I totally do. They're really convenient. They're awesome. But it might be worth figuring out how to cook dried beans. And there's two ways that you can soak them before you cook them. One is a long soak, where you soak them overnight, covered with at least a couple inches of water. And then another is if you realize at lunchtime that you want to eat black beans for dinner, you can cover them with water, bring them to a boil them for 1 minute, and then turn off the heat and let them sit for an hour. Now, at that point after they've soaked, then you're going to need to cook them until they're tender. And one of my favorite ways is if you do have an Instant Pot already, using it to pressure cook beans and grains is an amazing, it's an amazing tool for that. Or you can just cook them until tender on your stovetop. So I like to sometimes batch cook beans and grains for multiple meals. So if you're trying to get the most out of your pantry and also the most out of your time, if you make ahead something like black beans, quinoa, and chickpeas, you can see that you can then plan 3 different days of lunches and dinners using those grains. And then all you have to do is, add the barbecue sauce and pineapple and heat up the chickpeas and quinoa for lunch on the first day. Or make the black bean burgers, but you've already got the black beans set and in your fridge. So that is one strategy. And I like to try to do different types of flavors. So, I have barbecue suggested for the chickpeas here, but then like a peanut sauce on day 3. Because part of the problem with cooking batches of food and leftovers is that you get really sick of eating the same thing, and so do your kids. Hi, Will. Hi, Andrew. So sweet potatoes with black beans and cashew sour cream for dinner on day 1 is going to taste very different than black bean and Mexican spiced quinoa enchiladas on day 3. And so batch cooking grains and then just throwing together the last parts of the meal can be much more satisfying than eating straight up leftovers where everything tastes the same as it did the first meal. So this is an ingredient spotlight. I just wanted to talk about a couple of different ingredients and all of the different ways that you can use them. So chickpeas are one of my favorite ingredients of all time. Maybe you got a chance to see the chickpea salad video that I made to promote tonight's discussion. But I am going to have, so all of these links are already available on Sustainable Wellesley's site. But if you have chickpeas in your pantry, you can cook them in so many delicious meals. Barbecue chickpeas, spiced chickpeas and potatoes, an easy peanut butter curry chickpeas over rice, the chickpea salad sandwich, which is going to taste very different than like a curried chickpea dish. Hana masala is very easy to make at home. So if you're not going out to your favorite Indian restaurants and you want to make that at home, there are a lot of recipes online, and I've shared my favorite one on Sustainable Wellesley's site. And another great use of chickpeas is for snacking. You can actually roast chickpeas in the oven with a little bit of seasoning, a little bit of oil, or you can bake them dry, and they're a really fantastic snack. They actually sell them packaged in the grocery store, aimed towards kids' school lunch boxes. But you can make them at home, and then you can really customize with whatever flavors you have on hand in your pantry. Whether you want to do like a garam masala, or you want to do a salt and vinegar, like the world is your pantry oyster, whatever. All right, so chickpeas are awesome. And in the video that I did about the chickpea salad sandwich, I had this graphic that is actually from Mercy for Animals and Choose Veg, but it's a great graphic because a lot of people ask, like, all right, like if I start to swap out chickpeas for chicken, am I going to be hungry before dinner? Like, is it going to have enough protein for me? And if you look here, you can see that chickpeas have a lot of fiber, which makes them a meal that digests a little bit slower and gives you more sustained and lasting energy. You can see that they've got less sodium than chicken. They've got lots of potassium, they've got lots of calcium, they've got lots of iron. They're a really great food. And I talked a little bit briefly earlier about the water saved, and this just shows like what a powerful behavior change it is if you can swap out, you know, 1 meal a week, 2 meals a week. If you replace chicken with chickpeas, 1.5 pounds over the course of a week, if you replaced that with chickpeas, you would save so much more water than if you eliminated your household leaks, or you didn't shower for that entire week, or if you didn't let the faucet run while you brushed your teeth. So for easy swaps that are great environmental choices, switching out and eating some plants is a really efficient way to be environmental. Another favorite ingredient in our house is red lentils. And red lentils are awesome because you don't have to soak them. So unlike some of the other pantry staples that you might have in your kitchen, like the black beans or the kidney beans or the pinto beans, you know, those types of beans that require soaking overnight, or like even the quick soak takes an hour before you can cook them, lentils cook in about 15 to 20 minutes. You can have a lentil dish ready in the same amount of time it would take you to cook rice. 1 serving of lentils has 12 grams of protein, it has 7 grams of fiber, and it has 15% of your daily iron. One awesome thing that I like to do with lentils is they kind of fall apart when you cook them. Red lentils don't really hold their shape. If you want a lentil that holds its shape, you're going to want to look for like a French or a green lentil. But these kind of fall apart. They get a little bit like mushy. So you can actually throw them into pasta sauce for a nutrition boost, and it doesn't really change the texture of the pasta sauce. So I like to make red lentil sweet potato curry, spiced red lentil tomato and kale soup, 1 pot red lentil tortilla soup, which has more of a Mexican flavor. So it's going to, again, we've got like something that's a little bit Italian, something that's a little bit Mexican, something that's more Indian. So varying the different flavors and cuisine styles that you're using for these pantry staples will help it make it feel like you're eating a lot different of meals, even if you're batch cooking with different ingredients, or if you're buying a big bag of lentils and kind of focusing on using it up before you get to the grocery store again. And again, all of these recipes are full links posted on sustainablewellesley.com, so you can see all of these recipes in full if any of them sound good to you, and I hope they do. So if you swap in a black bean or a chickpea burger for beef, or basically this was done with any type of bean or legume replacing the beef in a hamburger, then you can save about 500 gallons of water and a 92% reduction in CO2 emissions for the meal. These are the estimates are from the Environmental Working Group and waterfacts.org. And if anybody wants to see full links to any of the references or sources, please feel free to reach out. So that said, burgers are fantastic, and it's not just your plain old veggie burger anymore. The internet is full of recipes. If you can shape it into a patty and pan fry it or cook it in your oven, then there are so many options. Sweet potato and white bean burgers are one of my absolute favorites. This is from a blogger, Kathy Patalski, Healthy Happy Vegan Kitchen, and again, these are going to be linked. And it's delicious, and I wouldn't have thought to put white beans and sweet potato together to make a burger patty, but it's phenomenal. Sun-dried tomato and chickpea burgers, barbecue black bean burgers, mushroom walnut burgers. You know, you could have a different burger every night of the week and not really reproduce the same flavors, and you'd be saving a lot of environmental impact by doing so. So we did get a question from someone specifically about gluten-free plant-based meals. And for our gluten-free friends, I want to recommend the blog Minimalist Baker. She also has a cookbook, but if you're not buying cookbooks right now, then she's available online as well. And she has most of her recipes online. She's a really great food blogger with gluten-free vegan recipes. Not all of her recipes are vegan, not all of them are gluten-free. Most are, and they're incredibly well labeled on her site. I would also say to look for things like quinoa and rice noodles, soba noodles, because pure buckwheat noodles are gluten-free. Oats, corn, potatoes, sweet potatoes, brown rice, those are all really good pantry staples for anyone eating gluten-free. And if you're looking for recipes that are gluten-free, I recommend looking for ones that are gluten-free by design rather than just trying to substitute. Part of what gluten does when you're baking with it is that it's a binder. So, when you're kneading bread and then baking bread, you're trying to activate the gluten to make that bread chewy. And so a lot of recipes, if you just swap in a gluten-free flour, the recipe won't hold together. Things will fall apart. But we don't have to be chemists and figure out what substitutions to make. There are so many people on the internet who have spent a lot of time baking mistakes and then posted what actually works. So that is my number one recommendation is, unless you're making a grain bowl and you're gonna swap in quinoa instead of, a noodle or something that isn't gluten-free, go for that. But if you're baking, I would look for a gluten-free recipe because they are out there. Somebody else also asked, what are your suggestions for meals for a college student with limited time and motivation to cook? That's a great question. And I'm not in college anymore, but there are a lot of times when I have limited motivation to cook. And one thing that, especially at lunchtime, has helped me a lot in the past is using this formula, a bean, a green, and a grain. And the green can really be any vegetable, but the idea is that you maybe you batch cook some of these beans and grains in advance, and then you just kind of throw together a bowl using a sauce to change up the flavors and keeping it simple. So you're talking about, 4 ingredients. You're throwing together kidney beans with some chopped butternut squash and some farro, and you're throwing a maple mustard sauce on it. Or you're just getting out a can of chickpeas, mixing in some frozen spinach, microwaving it till it's warm, and serving it over brown rice with a peanut sauce. And you can buy that peanut sauce or you can make it from your own ingredients on hand. There's a lot of recipes online that use only a couple ingredients, like peanut butter and soy sauce and apple cider vinegar. And it makes an amazing sauce, and all of a sudden you've got a flavorful meal that didn't take that many ingredients to make. So that's just one kind of simple way to make a meal that doesn't take a ton of ingredients. Another strategy is to cook something more intense, but then to leapfrog your leftovers by trying to plan so that you're not eating the leftovers the day after you ate the meal. So say you made a 3-bean chili and a veggie lasagna, you cook for 2 days, so Monday and Tuesday you're both cooking, but then you get Wednesday and Thursday off from making dinner. Or you make 3 meals, and most plant-based recipes will last at least 3 days in the fridge, so you can kind of do that. You can also freeze things, but I feel like this is a time when a lot of us have kind of already maximized the amount of frozen produce in our freezer so that we can reduce our number of trips to the grocery store. So I'm tending to keep my leftovers in the fridge and eat them instead of freezing them right now. But if you have space in your freezer, that's a great way to simplify the number of meals that you're making. Another strategy that's been thrown out a lot is using themes. So you can reduce your decision fatigue by using meal categories and just say, on Monday, I'm gonna make burgers. So on Monday, you don't have to figure out exactly what's for dinner, you just have to decide what burger you're making. And that actually can be a lot easier than trying to decide out of every available recipe on the internet what's for dinner. You can say, tonight my mission is to find a good burger recipe. I'm gonna try that sweet potato burger. It's actually a lot easier. On Wednesday you could have a curry. You could have a soup once a week. And a lot of soups are already really great plant-based soups like vegetables minestrone or pasta fagioli. Like a lot of soups out there are already going to be perfect plant-based options that use things from your pantry, like diced canned tomatoes or onions that last a long time if you're keeping them in a cool location in your home. And Friday could be pizza or pasta. That would be fine. So somebody also asked, and this is a question I actually get a lot because I have been eating exclusively plant-based since 2013. How do you make sure you're getting enough nutrients, specifically protein? And whether you're eating this way all the time or you're just switching out, a meal a week to help the environment, that's great. And my short answer would be just to eat a variety of whole plant-based foods and to take a B12 supplement. And I'll talk about that in a sec. But first, I actually went and took a day in my life to kind of show how easy it is to get protein from eating plants for a day. So say you did have a day and you're like, I want to make sure I've got enough protein, but I'm only going to eat plants because I want to try to do this thing for the environment and it's kind of a fun challenge. Well, this was just a random day in my life, and I had oatmeal with chopped apples for breakfast, and there were 6 grams of protein in the oats, half a gram in the apple. For lunch, a chickpea salad sandwich, 14.4 grams. And then bread, actually whole wheat bread has 7.2 grams of protein, but even white bread, I think if you have 2 slices, has about 6 grams of protein. So you might not expect that, but these things start to add up. I sometimes joke when people ask, where do you get your protein? I ask, well, where do you get your sodium? Like, it's not, you don't have one source, but oftentimes we're actually over our daily sodium intake. And protein was like that too. So you can see that even with just white spaghetti, like plain pasta with a red sauce that I did not even add lentils to, and green beans, I still ended up over 10 grams above my recommended daily allowance for me as a woman. And for men out there, if you eat the same amount, you'd still be over, because most men weigh about the amount that they would be recommended to get, about 56 grams. And probably you would be eating more calories, and so you would have even more protein than this just by ramping up to fill your appetite. So that's just one random day. And when I first started eating plant-based in 2013, I actually would do this quite a bit because I was still kind of worried about it. And it wasn't too long before I gave up with the math, because I realized that there was just a little bit of protein in everything that I was eating, and things really were working out. Another aspect of the question, I just want to say, if anybody is eating primarily plant-based, I want to encourage taking a B12 supplement. Plants don't make B12. Animals actually don't make it either. It's made by microbes. And we used to get it probably by, drinking water and eating vegetables that weren't totally cleaned. But we also got things like cholera. So now that our food is a little bit more hygienic, we're not getting those microbes. But it's really necessary for brain health. It's incredibly important, and supplements are very inexpensive. A lot of people who are meat eaters get their B12 from meat, but an interesting aspect of that is that livestock are often given B12 supplements to make sure that the animal meat has the B12 in it that people are then getting. So you can either take the B12 supplement and eat the plants, or you can let people give the B12 supplement to the animals, and then you can eat the animals. It's recommended by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine that you take a B12 supplement if you're eating an entirely or primarily plant-based diet. Especially as you get older, it's a little bit of a hard vitamin to absorb. So, speaking of nutrition, I am not a doctor. I highly recommend these 2 sites. The Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine is actually made up of over 12,000 physicians. It's a really great site that has a lot of information about nutrition. Another one that's really fun that I like is nutritionfacts.org, and it's run by Dr. Michael Greger, and he has a team of researchers that read all of the new nutrition studies that are being put out, all the different nutrition publications, and then they put them into little entertaining, engaging videos to present that information in a way that's easy to understand. So you might watch a 3-minute video while you have your morning coffee, and it might talk about how ginger has a positive impact on migraines. Or you might watch another 2-minute video about what they discovered for long-term health impact for breast cancer survivors who ate soy. And so that's a really interesting website, and it has a lot of different videos on different topics that take all of the research and has citation after citation after citation, so you can see what studies the research is coming from about food. So another question is, what about kids? And if you have kids and you want to start having a couple meatless meals a week for them, I highly recommend the book Plant-Powered Families. This cookbook by Drina Burton is phenomenal. It's a lot of kid-friendly foods. It's not a lot of spicy stuff. It's pretty simple, so it's not 20-page ingredient lists. And she also has a full section in the back about nutrition for plant-based families. So it's a really wonderful book. The library has it both hardcover and when we get back to the library, but they also have a digital version, so you can borrow it and you can actually read it on your computer. A few of my kids who are 8 and 9, their favorite meals, just to show that it's really possible to throw in some plant-based meals that kids like. They love 3-bean chili. They like baked beans with cornbread and green beans. They like pizza with Kalamata olives and a cashew-based cheese. They love sweet potato bisque. They like the hana masala, the chickpea and stewed tomato dish with half of the spices. So there are a lot of meals out there that kids like. So every meal helps. I hope that you'll consider swapping out an additional meat-based meal for plants once a week. Maybe you already do meatless Mondays. Maybe you could do a meatless Thursday, or maybe you're just beginning to even consider having a veggie burger. But every bit that you do actually does make a difference for the environment, and it's a really efficient way to be environmental from your own home right now. You can share your plant-based meals with us on Instagram with the hashtag Sustainable Wellesley, or you can upload them to the Sustainable Living Wellesley Facebook group. I would love to see what people are making. If people start making some additional meals, that would be awesome. And I have some other resources for you that are also going to be on the Sustainable Wellesley site that could make it a little bit easier if you're thinking of swapping in some plant-based meals. First, for everybody who watched Forks Over Knives and saw Cadwell Esselstyn, his daughter Jane has a YouTube cooking channel, and I think this is just what we need in our lives right now. And I'm going to show you like 30 seconds of it because it's amazing.
Hi, I'm Jane Esselstyn.
I'm Ann Esselstyn.
And today we're cooking for...
I'm the mother.
And, yes, she is.
Yeah, okay. So they're fabulous. Jane Esselstyn is Dr. Esselstyn's daughter. You can see her holding his Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease cookbook there. And Ann is her mother, his wife. And their YouTube videos are just, I think they're just amazing. They really make me smile, and I think that I really need that right now. So I wanted to share that with you in case you enjoyed their personalities from the film and wanted to see a little bit more of them. So here's just a screenshot so you can see the link to YouTube will be available on Sustainable Wellesley, but she's just Jane Esselstyn on YouTube. And she has all kinds of different tutorials and recipes, and her mother is often in them, which makes them even better. Another great resource, if you're like, I want lasagna, but I want to do Meatless Monday, findingvegan.com is a database designed to hook you up with online recipes for whatever it is that you're trying to cook plant-based. So I just typed in lasagna, and I got pages and pages of different lasagna recipes. So if you're like, oh, I really want soup because it's Thursday and that's how I'm planning my meals, you can go there, you can type in soup, and then you can see all of these different soups that you know are going to be plant-based. So that's a great website. Another thing you can try is a meal planning software, and there are a lot of them out there. Some of them require expensive subscriptions. Some of them have free options. One of them that I like is lighter.world. And if you can see over on the right side of the screen, you are actually able to kind of customize it based on the serving sizes in your family, any special diets you have. So say you are gluten-free, you can put in that you're gluten-free. You can also specify any allergies or dislikes. So if you've got somebody in your family who hates eggplant and you don't want to see eggplant, you can put that in there. Same with garlic or any other food sensitivities. And then when you discover meals to add to your menu, it'll customize them based on your dislikes and likes. And it'll also populate a grocery list for you. And it used to sync with grocery delivery, but I think we all know that's not happening right now. Mentioned this earlier, but did you know that you can borrow digital cookbooks from Wellesley Free Library? So we can't go to the library right now, but they have a lot of digital cookbooks. They have over 50 plant-based titles in their digital catalog, and you don't have to read them on the Kindle, though you can. You can open them on your computer, on your tablet, and then you can see all of those recipes. And I love that because you can try the cookbook before you buy it. And because while there are a lot of really amazing food bloggers out there, it takes more experience, credentials, and recipe testing to publish a cookbook than it does to start a blog. So when you get a cookbook, you're likely to be eating recipes that have been tested and work really well. If you enjoyed Forks Over Knives, or if you want to learn more about the environmental impact of animal agriculture, our very first documentary screening in 2017 actually was the documentary Cowspiracy, and it is available on Netflix. And it is not exactly an uplifting film, but it's a really inspiring one about how much you can help by participating in Meatless Mondays or adding some things in. So that is it from me. But if people are interested in asking any questions, I can read your comments over here. You're welcome to email me. I have my email address right up here. It's actually kelly@iamrunningthis.com. I'm Kelly Chiazzo. I'm in Wellesley. I've been here for almost 10 years now. I hope to see you out and about in Wellesley again soon. You can also email info@sustainablewellesley.com with any questions that you have about the organization. And please make sure you visit our website for things that we're doing in town. Sustainable Wellesley is an incredible organization. They've done a lot of work on gas leaks. They were responsible for advocating for the town-wide plastic bag ban. They're phenomenal. All right, does anyone have any questions? I don't see any more questions. Okay, but some people are definitely doing Hana Masala. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. If you are watching after the fact and you have questions, it's not too late. You can email them to me, or you can email them to Sustainable Wellesley and they will get them to me, and I will make sure to get a response back to you. Even if it's, or especially if it's just, what do I make for dinner? All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm glad everybody could join us. Thanks and have a great night.